I woke up this morning really early just to be able to see the live stream before I had to leave for class, and then just as the live stream finished, I had to jump out and just go straight to university. So I'm finally home, and I'm here to talk about everything we know about Vanguard Zero so far from today's live stream at the Tokyo Game Show. So we found out a lot, which some people are having a bit of a negative reaction to. Some people are celebrating, like myself. I'm going to try to keep my opinion out of this to some extent. I'm still going to obviously say what I think about some things, but most of my speculation and deep thoughts and all this stuff will probably come next week, but for now I just want to inform you on what it is, because most of the information isn't as readily available in English at the moment, because most of it is in Japanese, but I want to inform you as much as we have. I'll also link the original stream as well as the English trailer in the description so you can check those out for yourselves. So let's get into it. First things first, this is not the V series that we'll be using in the Zero game, and neither is it the original game of Vanguard itself, because it's going to be a slightly more compressed version of Vanguard that's a lot more playable or optimal, I guess, for mobile devices. So with all mobile games, they're games that need to be played fast. They need to be completed in a 10-minute span normally, because some people are playing it on their quick, transfer from train to train or something like that, or while they're, waiting in the parking lot or whatever, that kind of situation. And another important thing to note is that although the game kind of changes, the story is back to the original, so back to Zero. So before G, before V series, before the reboot or anything, we're back to the actual original anime, and that's going to be the story that's going to be telling. And it looks like the release date of cards will be somewhat altered, because we saw in the trailer they already had cards that were up to BTO 5. So this leads me to think that it might be something like how it's altered packs. We're not going to have the same BTO 1, BTO 2, BTO 3, BTO 4 kind of thing that we had in the physical game. It's going to be more along the lines of they'll have, kind of like on the reboot, we had Unite Team Q4, which had full sets of OTT, Kagero, Nova Grappler, and Royal Paladin. And then, we have these sort of ways to, we have all the triggers in the set. We might get Trial X too, but we have all the triggers, enough grade 3s, enough grade 2s, enough grade 1s. But I guess we won't get triggers in the game, which I'll get to in a bit. But, it's going to have all the core units to every clan so that they can release these little by little, and then you can kind of switch between clans over time and then play new things, and obviously just enjoy Vanguard like you normally would. Then in the trailer I saw a quest system, because it said that the clans have levels. So there was Royal Paladin and then clan level. Written in Japanese, obviously, but it looks like you can level up each clan, so by switching between the 24 clans that we have available, you'll be able to go through different ones and probably unlock different cards, or, premium currency, or sleeves, maybe, or, all kinds of things. It depends on how Bushiroad decides to tackle this. And then the regular quests, at least from the trailer, look like they give you the premium currency that you probably use to open packs. Obviously, this is going to be, a gacha-style game where you do use real money sometimes to purchase packs, but you can also gather the premium currency in-game to also purchase packs and build your decks. But obviously, it's the same as, every other virtual card game. Now, one thing we also saw in the trailer is that the deck limit seems to be 40 cards, in which you have one slot for your starter, which is the only grade 0 that you have in your deck, then 13 slots for your grade 1s, 13 slots for your grade 2s, and 13 slots for your grade 3s. That's right, 13 grade 3s, but no normal grade 0 triggers. Instead, the triggers that we're gonna get will be on grade 3s. That's pretty important to note, because instead of having, the classic, grade 0s with bigger shields, but with triggers, we're going to have grade 3s with no shields, because there's no need for shields, but that have the triggers instead, so we'll be running more of them instead, I guess. And the grade 3s are also 13 per deck, so I guess that means that also 13 triggers per deck instead of the 16 that we have in the actual physical game. I mean, I kind of like this change to some extent, because it lowers the possibilities of being grade stuck, because now all the grades are, well, distributed equally. Although originally the reason why they weren't distributed equally in most deck builds is because you need to draw into the grade 1s, as fast as possible, and then the grade 2s, and then you play less grade 3s because you can draw into them throughout the game, and that's why you can afford to play less. But I'm fine with this, kind of stance as well. It looks like we're locked to 13, 13, 13, at least from what the trailer shows us, so that's something to think about as well. But then the nice thing is that we still have the 4 of each card maximum per deck requirement, so I guess you'll be playing something like 4, 4, and then 3 and 2 maybe, you know, that kind of thing, because it is 13, if it is 13 slots at least. So we'll see if they stick to that, but at least from the trailer, that's what we saw. Another thing that I'm really happy to see is that crafting will be present. So it's not the kind of system where you have to, you know, you have to like buy every card, you know, you do have to, or like you have to always open packs to have a chance to get a card. It looks like we can gather some kind of, you know, crafting currency, some kind of essence, or whatever you want to call it, and then convert that currency, or all that essence, you know, those kind of things, into cards that we can build, hopefully from the entire, you know, catalog of cards that are available in the game, which will make it really accessible, and I do like that a lot, so I'm happy that they kept that from Vanguard Online. Now it also seems, now going into the gameplay changes, it seems that every time you take a damage, you will automatically gain 5k shield. So it's not, even if you don't take a trigger as damage, you will gain 5k shield, you know, just for taking damage. I kind of like that. I think that's kind of interesting, and it lets you, you know, figure out your attack patterns as you go in that regard. And I think, you know, and on top of that, obviously the triggers go back to giving 5k plus power. So, but if you check a trigger, obviously you gain plus 10k power because of the default 5k base that you gain from taking damage and the 5k from getting a trigger. I kind of like that. As I said, I think it's pretty good for, you know, just the pace of the game, and that way, you know, the combos and stuff like that don't get too out of hand over time, because I'm assuming they're going to try to import most of the card pool and hopefully go into G as well, but we'll see about that. Now another important change that I think, this is the one that people aren't that happy about, is that there's no shield values. Absolutely none, except for technically Perfect Guard, which I'll get into in a second. But the thing with no shield values means that you cannot guard. Like, you cannot actually guard from hand, and Dr. O and the rest of the guests on the live stream very much emphasize the point that you don't need to do anything during your opponent's turn. You can go and eat something while your opponent is playing out their turn. Some people won't like that because we like that kind of, you know, interactive part of Vanguard, but I guess when you're on a virtual, you know, realm, like your phone, you usually don't need to have that interaction, I guess. This is a bit of a shaky topic, so I'll leave it at that. But instead of guarding, because obviously you need to protect from your attacks in some way, grade 2s will be given something like a taunt or a ward, as you've probably heard in other games, where until you get rid of that grade 2, you can't attack your opponent's Vanguard. So if your opponent has a grade 2, you know, in the front row, you have to attack the grade 2 first and get rid of it before attacking the opponent's Vanguard. And then perfect shields also change a little bit. They do go from your hand, but it looks like they negate the damage instead of being the perfect guard that they were originally. So, and you don't have to like discard an additional card, you just discard the perfect guard on its own into the drop zone, and it negates the damage. So I think that's okay. I think it's alright, you know, as long as perfect guards can still stay. They're gonna stay as a 4 of that, you know, in most decks. So I think that's also quite alright. I think I'm now gonna touch up on something that I said on Twitter, in that guarding was a problem for virtual, well, for the one virtual platform that Vanguard was on, which was Cardfight Vanguard Online, or CFO, and there, when you would go into guarding, every single battle that the opponent could guard against, you'd go into a new timer, and that timer was really generous. It was like 2 minutes, I think. And so some players took advantage of that timer, and they would, you know, keep draining it until the 2-minute slot, or like right before it ends, and then drain it again, and that, you know, that's pretty unhealthy, both for, you know, the game itself, but also for the time management part that mobile games need to be good at, and that is, you know, just that games need to last 10 minutes maximum, and with those kind of timers, that's not going to work out. So I think that's why they turned off you being able to do anything during your opponent's turn as a whole. So I think it's okay for a mobile game, but it wouldn't be acceptable in the actual game itself. So that's why I think it's sort of alright here. And you know, those long timers for guarding, they didn't just lead to people stalling, it also led to disconnects, it led to the game crashing sometimes, you know, all kinds of issues. So I think it's okay in this sense for them to get rid of guarding, because they probably saw what was happening on CFO, and they probably didn't want to run into that again, so this will hopefully make the release of the game a little bit smoother. Another small thing to note, the units have small sprites on the field, which is quite nice to see, so you can see them show up on the field. No CGs, just like the unit's art like popped out of the card, which I think is pretty nice, so that's also a nice little addition. And for triggers, it looks like it stands crit, draw, and heal. They don't add fronts for now, because, well, we're playing back in the original game. Again, I think it would have been maybe smarter to go with the V series and just adapt it properly into an actual mobile game, and then we can practice standard on the mobile game. But I'm okay with what they're doing here as well. I think maybe it's because the standard card pool isn't that big yet, or they haven't confirmed everything. So, you know, that it might be because of that. We can't really say. But I guess I'm personally completely fine with it being a separate game, because in my opinion, this is a different way to introduce people into the world of Vanguard. It's going to be a new way to share Vanguard, and that's where my love for Vanguard comes from. It's from being able to spread it to other people and explain things to them, teach them, and show them what really makes it fun. And then, if the live stream is anything to go by, it looks like they're gonna have some kind of a spectator mode, which is gonna be great for online tournaments and stuff like that, because then you can actually host like live streams where you can, you know, just play the game and you like spectate the lobbies in which the game is played, and I think that's honestly quite good, so I hope they do incorporate that properly. Then, the modes of the game, they announced 3 modes. You have your story mode, which you're going to go through, you know, the original story of the original Vanguard. You're probably going to have, like, cards to unlock there, or, like, you know, all kinds of things that you can expect from a mobile game. Then we're going to have the ranked matches, in which you play against online opponents, and you have a ladder, you know, going probably from C to A or S, and then you're going to rank up on the ladder until you reach the top rank, and that's where you prove your might as a Vanguard Zero player. And then you have My Room, which is where you interact with the various characters from the anime in Cards Capital, so that's also, you know, for people that don't enjoy the game as much maybe, but they really love the anime, so they want to interact with the characters. I think that's going to be there for them, as well as anybody else that just wants to, you know, tap some characters on the screen. So that's more or less everything that we know so far. You know, the fundamental rules of the game, like the fact that you can, you know, attack and boost your units, that still exists. You know, your starting hands and stuff, they still exist. You know, all this kind of stuff is mostly remaining the same. You still need to deal 6 damage to your opponent to win. All that thing is still the same. The trigger rules are still the same. So, you know, they've changed some of the things that we consider fundamental, but they still kept a lot of them, and I think these changes are just ways to adapt the game into a mobile setting. Now, some might argue that, well, other franchises have done it successfully without having to, you know, reformat the game so much, like, I mean, Duel Links, but I think it's still okay in the way that they're doing it. I think it's going to be a new way to enjoy Vanguard, and if Duel Links is anything to go by, a lot of Duel Links players, including myself actually, who got into Duel Links and played a lot, then went back to the original Yu-Gi-Oh! To play the physical game, you know, myself included. You know, there was other factors too, but that was a pretty major factor, and people aren't afraid to step into the real game after experiencing a format that's completely different, you know? So I think this should be a good thing for spreading Vanguard to the masses, spreading Vanguard to people that have never heard of it before, who might be browsing the App Store and just see something, you know, pop up and be like, oh, well, I'll just install this and give it a try because I've got some free time. So I think, honestly, I'm really hyped for it. I think it's going to be fun. I'm planning to make a lot of content for it because I think it's going to be a new way to enjoy Vanguard. It's going to be an easy way to enjoy Vanguard. My trip to university takes an hour, so if games are 10 minutes or less, that's going to be 6 games that I can fit in during one way to my university. So that's, you know, pretty good. I like that. You know, it gives me more stuff to do, you know, on that road. So I think it is quite good. And then I'm hoping that Bushiroad does Vanguard Zero events outside of Japan as well, because for their other mobile card game, Triple Monsters, they do have tournaments, you know, in Japan physically that you can attend with your phone, like Shadowverse does as well. And the nice thing is that they also have big tournaments with big prize money as well, which I think they could easily put into Vanguard Zero as well, and also spread that into the western part of the world, because that's also what Duel Links does. You know, Duel Links, you also play qualifiers in the game, but then when you qualify, you go to Worlds, but you go to Worlds for Duel Links, not for the actual TCG. So you play out against other Duel Links players just in the same venue. Just like you're playing, let's say as a standard player, you play in the same venue as premium players, Buddyfight players, Vice players, Dragomore players, you know, all these kind of things. So it's just another way to enjoy the game and another way to prove your might. And I think we're going to see a lot of new players joining the game. We're going to see a lot of, you know, personalities online that pop up that have never, you know, played Vanguard before, but maybe they really high rank on Vanguard Zero, and you know, they know a bit more about it than some others, and so that's going to be pretty exciting to see as well. But obviously, let me know your thoughts on the game and everything we've seen. The trailer and the stream are in the description if you want to check them out, if you haven't already, if you want to check them out again just to see if what I was saying actually does hold true. And then, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So let's get a discussion rolling in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts on Vanguard Zero, what you think on the way that they've changed the game. Are you excited about it? Are you frustrated? Please keep it civil, because I've seen in a lot of places online it getting a little bit out of hand, and I'd prefer it if you could keep it civil and just, you know, a regular discussion without flaming or anything like that. We're all Vanguard players, and I know that when Duel Links came out, a lot of the hardcore Yu-Gi-Oh players didn't want to play it, and I understand that, and I know that the same is happening right now with Vanguard, but Duel Links still attracted its own player base that didn't play the normal Yu-Gi-Oh at that time, so I think we're going to have the exact same thing with Vanguard Zero, and it's going to be a proper success that does do well as well. So, let me know your thoughts, as I said before, but that's going to be it for me today. Don't forget to check out the second channel. I'll have the first proper upload on it next week after regionals, so do look forward to that. And then do also click the bell button and check out the social media and join the Discord channel if you haven't already. But on that note, that's going to be it for me today, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.